Hello. Thank you very much indeed for that very warm welcome. Well, as Louis said, we were stood behind the barriers then during recognition, and we live in exciting times with this business. You know, this is a business which is going through such growth at the moment, in that I don't think there's a lot of people who can't believe it. You know, but it's an honour and a privilege to be here today sharing with you in Brentwood. And what you're going to see today is an example of a very ordinary couple who've been given a very special business to work with and a very special team of people to work with. It's a privilege to be here as well to share time with some of your leaders again. Because I tell you, some of you will be aware of this and some of you won't be aware of this because of the time you've been in the business. But in this neck of the woods, you have some of the finest leaders anywhere in this country with this business. And you're not going to get any better help than you're getting here. I'd like to add my congratulations to all the people who've changed levels and been recognised here today. You know, because I remember going along to our first function. It was almost 4 years ago that we went along to our first function. I went along and sat there and I felt very awkward. You know, I remember seeing people, though, being recognised and people hitting the new levels, and it gave such an impact on me. It was one of the most powerful impacts I had on the whole day and the whole function, is I went away thinking, well, you know, there's people, ordinary people from, you know, ordinary backgrounds in life who are making this thing happen big. You know, and it's really a tremendous thing to do, not just for yourselves, but to help other people. Because when you move on, you're going to help many, many other people move on by setting the example. You know, we don't think we've arrived by any stretch of the imagination. You know, the Emerald level to us, you know, although a dream for a long time, is now only a stepping stone. And we hope we'll think we've never arrived. This is a business that we know, just like Louise and myself, every night there's people drawing back the curtain saying there must be someone out there to change our situations. And we hope we never get to a stage where we think we've done enough and we're not prepared to go out there and share it to someone else like Louise and myself were a few years ago and give them the opportunity to go out and change their life to the positive. So we hope we never feel we've arrived. And the reason we're here today is because of the very special pattern and system which we all have available to us, developed by two very special couples, Pat and Greta Gregory and Jerry and Mandy Scriven. You know, they had this business in the early days when people wouldn't meet in fantastic, prestigious venues like this, but they'd be meeting in the back of pub rooms, you know, with maybe sort of half a dozen people or more there. And that's what people have to go along. They'd be sat on the wooden chairs and they'd be trying to imagine a big business. Today we don't have to imagine a big business because we've got a big business. But I don't know if you can imagine being dragged along to the back of a pub room and someone talking about, well, there's this big business in Japan and America, you know, we're going to have the same here one day. You could have very easily walked away and thought, that's never going to work here. You know, it would have been very easy to walk away scoffing or almost slightly laughing. But it's because those two couples, you know, that we've got what we've got today. And Louise and myself would like to publicly thank Pat and Greta and Jerry and Mandy for putting together this system we've all got to build our futures with today. One very special welcome I'd like to welcome as well is the people who are here for the first time. Because I remember my first function still very vividly. And I remember going along and I felt very awkward. I wasn't particularly positive. I'd had the message, we'll come along and see what you think of the function. If you like it after that, you know, we'll talk. Because I had a few negative ideas and been talking to myself a bit negative about the business. I came into contact with a few negative people before I came along to my first function. So I didn't come along open-minded. So all I'd say to the new people is just, if you, as much as you can, keep an open mind, because this is a business which isn't conventional. This is a business that doesn't work on conventional principles on this all the time. So just sit and keep an open mind, and I appreciate that you're not going to understand this business in the first 2 weeks or few months of you being involved in it. It takes more than that. But I hope today you can go away with a little something and you believe this business works, and you believe it works enough that you grab hold of it tight enough to do something with it for yourselves and your family. But I know that not everyone's going to relate to Louise and myself today, or Trevor and Tracy who spoke earlier. You know, I know they did a fantastic job, but it'd be impossible for you to come along and relate to every speaker you ever see talk on a stage. But realise, you know, we're not the business. We just happen to be people who might be just talking and sharing some principles about the business with you. But we're not this business. So if you do come along, I hope, if you've come along here today and you don't relate to Louise and myself, you know, a little old builder boy from Devon, you know, I hope you don't go away and say, well, I'm not going to do it based on I didn't like that guy. I'm sure you like everybody else, but if you don't like what we've got to say today, or you don't like us, for goodness sake, come back next month and you'll like the speakers you're going to see there. You know, everything we're going to share with you today, though, like I say, is not things we've invented. We feel privileged to pass them on because they're things that we've learnt and used and that have worked for us. And it's a privilege for us to be able to pass them on in a hope that you're going to be able to use them and it's going to carry you to what sort of success you're looking for in your lives. And what we want to do today is give you a few ideas that you're going to be able to take away from here and put into action in your own businesses that's going to propel you forward at a rapid rate. You know, things that, like I say, that we were able to implicate in our businesses and propelled us forward at a rapid rate. You know, has it ever been said to you that to achieve success in business, you need to be in the right place at the right time? I'm sure we've all heard that at some time in our lives. Well, with this business and with this system today, we're definitely all in the right place and at the right time. As I said earlier, the growth we're experiencing is blowing even a lot of the leaders' minds. Last year, this business put on close to $1 billion around the world. $1 billion extra turnover. Now, I don't think you could think of many other businesses which done that over the last year in the business world. But what's so special in this business about that? In a lot of businesses, it's just it just means an extra billion. But this business, an extra billion turnover. What that relates to is thousands more individual success stories. Individual people who started off the business with the same fears that everyone starts off with. You know, people wondering, well, yeah, okay, it works, but can I do it? You know, is it real? All right. Excuse me. Is this business real? You know, I think we've all had those thoughts. For a long time, I'd be driving away from functions saying things to Louise like, well, yeah, but it can't work for everybody. I'll be driving along, you know, talking negative to myself, things like this. And the thing what I realized is this business works for anybody who works it and is committed enough to make it work. And that's why I want to talk. I want to touch on some of the things you must realize you're going to come across some challenges. And I want to cover some of the challenges you're going to come across in this business. But I want to keep them in perspective. Because don't we have challenges in everything we do in life? I think that's an important thing to remember. You know, this business is greater than it's ever been today because of the added credibility we have. You know, well, as I said, when Pat and Greta started, they had no credibility in the UK. And Jerry and Mandy, they had no credibility in the UK. Today, at a direct level, there's practically every profession or job represented in this business. There's someone to point to who's successful in making the business happen from every walk of life. You know, from just a few products, when Pat and Greta and Jerry and Mandy started today, we're close to 1,000 products in the UK now and moving on all the time. And this business today, you literally offer someone a chance. When you offer someone this business opportunity, today it's not an exaggeration to say you offer them a chance to have a share of the world's market using some of the world's leading manufacturers' products. That's the size of the business you have in your hand today. You know, both Louise and myself, on getting involved in this business, have worked for people. We've been employees of somebody else. We've both worked for ourselves in our own business. And we've both been full-time, part-time in this business. I say full-time, part-time because this is a business that we start off part-time alongside whatever job or whatever career we've got. And that's one of the beauties of it in my imagination is the fact you don't risk everything. You're not saying, well, I've got to give up my job or give up my previous business to start this one. You put it alongside in your spare time. And then, of course, if one of your goals is to replace your income and to get rid of the job or get rid of the business you're currently operating, it still stays part-time then. And that's one of the phenomenal rewards of this business, to have a business today which pays us far, far more than we ever earned more than 100 hours a week we put in between our two businesses. We put in a fraction of that time today and have a far more secure business, a far more exciting business, and a far more rewarding business than we ever had worked before. I was in the building business, and Louise had a secretarial business before we got going in this business. Realize that if you take this business seriously, you'll be part-time employees and full-time business people. And that's something that takes a little bit difficult to get to grips with sometimes, because we almost take the business, if you're not careful, you don't treat it big. And if you don't treat it big, it will never become big. This is a business you need to treat big before it will become big. It's no good saying, well, I'll start treating it more seriously when it gets bigger. That's a total misnomer in the business. You've got to treat it very seriously and large before it actually becomes large. One thing is I would say, though, and I'd say this because I think it's a very important point, it's a business I would recommend you keep totally separate from your job. You know, use the principles in the business to become better workers on your job or better workers on your other business, but keep it totally separate. So when you actually leave your work, if that's one of the things you want to do, you're going to be missed. And I'm not saying, thank goodness we got rid of them. You know, they were a nightmare person. You know, they were plying their trade in our time. That's something you never want to have said about you. And I believe we can use these principles and become better in everything we do in life, not just in business. You know, having done all three ways of making a living, I can assure you there's nothing that compares fractionally with being an emerald in this business apart from being diamond or beyond. And I'm going to talk about some of the things later, that some of the things that are achievable by building this business and hitting the emerald level or the diamond level or beyond that. And I can tell you now, it's things which today, some of the things, the way we live today, it's beyond my wildest dreams when I got involved in this business 4 years ago. It's better than I'd ever imagined. And you hear you hear what's possible through the business. Sometimes I used to sit out in the audience and I think, well, I just hope that's true. I just hope it's true. And you go on blind faith sometimes, I know, because you seem to be putting in so much effort and so much time, and the rewards don't seem to come evenly sometimes in this business. They don't hit you evenly. But when they start hitting you, I'll tell you, they get very good indeed. I think, as I said earlier, you're going to get some challenges in this business. But I'd like to put some of those challenges in perspective. The biggest challenge which Louise and myself had in this business is that it wasn't convenient. Has anyone ever felt that? This business isn't convenient. Maybe you get in late from work one day, you're tired after a day's work, you sit in your favourite armchair, your favourite TV program's on, and you should be making some phone calls, you should be out showing a plan or prospecting some people, and you think, it's just not convenient, Or you've had a bad day at work and you come home and you just don't feel like doing anything. You want to sit there and suck your thumb for a couple of hours. I felt like that many, many times in building this business. But the point I want to make with, sure, this business isn't convenient because it's built alongside other things that you do. It's not convenient having this thing flying around my head, But never mind, I'll ignore it. If you ever gone to work, you've had a bad day at work, and you come back and you say, that's it, I'm not going in tomorrow. Well, I've had enough of it. Has anyone ever gone out a bad day at work? Do you come home and think, that's it, I'm never going in again? Of course I'm going to get that thing for a second. Dave, have you got any fly spray? You come back from work and do you ever say to yourself that, I've had such a bad day, I really don't fancy going in tomorrow. But it's not an option, don't you? It's not an option not to go in tomorrow. Because if you don't go in tomorrow, maybe you can phone in for a sickie occasionally. I think we've all done that from time to time. But if you don't go in on a consistent basis, there's your job down the tube. So we know it's not an option if we have a bad day of work not to go in the next day or the next day after that. And I believe the biggest thing that people let this business go without ever knowing when they've got in their hands is because it's not convenient and it's because free choice. You don't have to do this, do you? There's no one forcing you to do this business. You can come home and you can choose to sit there in front of a television set. You can choose not to go out. You can choose to carry on the way you were. But this business, what I've noticed about this business, the inconvenience is only temporary. If you grab hold of this business, become committed to this business, that inconvenience is going to be very temporary indeed. It's going to lead to long-term convenience. And that's one of the most exciting things for me about this business is that everyone starts this business in the same place. You can't buy into this business. You have to start from point zero. You don't get involved and sign the green application form or the one studded in diamonds, and that's the diamond or the emerald application form. Everyone starts from the same position. Everyone has the same vehicle. But that vehicle, I said earlier, is getting better and better all the time because of the renewed credibility that we have. And some of you involved in the room today will realize already there's a little bit more involved here, but a little bit of soap and a little bit of washing up powder. But in the early days in this business, that's all I could see. It almost blinded me so much, I couldn't see beyond, the products in the business to see the bigger side of the business. The business is really about building people. You build people and you build the organization and the goods and services move anyway. Everyone who's been in the business for a while will tell you that. And I appreciate in the early days of the business, sometimes it's very difficult to get to grips with that. I found it very difficult to get to grips with that. Louise and myself, with this business today, we'd be happy to be away from this business for several months today and know that we would come back to a bigger business than we left. In our businesses we had before, which I said was a construction business and a secretarial business, if we went away on a 2-week holiday, we'd be worried about it. Well, I hope it's all going all right at home. We're obviously making phone calls back home sometimes. Is that okay? Are you going on schedule? You know, the business owned me. I didn't own the business, my construction business. It owned me, more or less. I'm sure a lot of business people in the room will know what I'm talking about there, where they end up being owned by the business and them not owning their business. You know, but what will determine whether you grab hold of this business tightly enough to make it work for you? You know, we've seen so many people, and this is the sad thing about this business for us. We've seen so many people come involved in the business and hang around the skirts of it and then let it go. And they'll never really know what they've let go of. They've obviously come involved and they thought, well, yes, it works, but I couldn't do it, or something like that. They haven't hanged around long enough to realize what they had in their hand. And the people we see who hang around this business long enough and grab hold of it tightly enough to make it work for themselves are the people who understand why they're doing it. And this is something for a new person coming along to this business, and you come along to this business and you'll come along to a lot of business seminars and you'll hear a lot of people talk about the dream or the goal. And so many people in life go through life thinking, well, how would you do this and how would you do that? And one of the biggest lessons Louise and I ever learned in building this business is we need to concentrate more on the why. If you know exactly why, you'll always find out how, no matter how long or how hard it takes you. And that's something which is very important to understand. And that is what's going to determine the people who go away from this room today and start to blow the lid off this business, from the people who go away from this room today and sit on this business, or the people who go away from this room today and somehow let go of this business, somehow let it out of their grips because they never realized what they had in hand. They never realized the opportunity that was there. And it's a business sometimes which is difficult to take seriously. I took a long time to take this business seriously because I thought this can't be a proper business because you can't go bankrupt. I thought, you know, a proper business was if you went down the bank and lent thousands of pounds, you know, and you were there paying the interest off and you had to make the payments at a certain time. I thought that was proper business. I thought that was playing business. And suddenly I paid me £65 for a kit and I sat there in the living room looking at this box of soap and whatever. And I thought, well, this isn't a business. You know, and for a long time I couldn't take the business seriously because it's a very small risk business. But this is a business that offers incredible rewards for a very tiny risk. And that is one of the fantastic things about the business. You don't have to have thousands of pounds. You don't have to borrow thousands of pounds to get involved or to build this business. But it offers far more than a business that you might borrow thousands of pounds to build.